Hi everyone, welcome back. I hope that you learned something about yourself that you hadn't yet considered in that last session. I heard back from our team that you all had some big plans for the future, and we're so excited to work with you on making them a reality. So, way to go! So, for the second half of today's program, we've got some amazing things in store for you. We're going to have back to back fireside chats with some really cool people and a few big prize announcements that I think you'll be excited about. But first, it is my honor and delight to introduce you to our musical performance, Mariela Shaker. Mariela is an accomplished violinist who survived the conflict in Syria and sought asylum in the US in 2013. While studying at Monmouth College, she realized that she would not be able to return to her home country due to the ongoing conflict, and decided then and there to dedicate herself to using her unique voice as a musician and refugee to build bridges through music and raise awareness of the plight of the Syrian people. Please join me now in welcoming to the screen Mariela. Take it away.
Hello everyone. It gives me a great pleasure and honor to be here with you today at MIT Solved. I was one of those young people in Syria whose dreams were vanished by the ongoing war. In 2012, the war escalated in Syria, and my city Aleppo started to mourn its people day after day. We frequently woke up to the massive sound of explosions. Without electricity or power, I decided to hide in internet cafes to send my application to schools and programs in the US and Europe. I was struggling in the darkness of a ruined city, running under bombs falling everywhere to find any opportunity for survival. After 6 months of tireless work, a miraculous email landed in my inbox from Monmouth College in Illinois, offering me a full tuition scholarship in music performance. Aleppo was besieged by the time I received my visa to travel. All the roads from and to Aleppo were closed except for a very dangerous gravel side road. My mother and I went to that area where private buses gather to pick up passengers, but it would be at our own risk, as these buses were not affiliated with any company. I had to say yes because my flight ticket had already been booked, and I did not know if I would ever get a second chance. The trip on that bus took us 17 hours, while normal days it did not exceed 5 or 6. Over than 50 checkpoints of soldiers along the way. At many of them, they thought my violin case was a gun, and I had to prove it was not. So they would make me to open the violin case, pick up the violin to inspect it. The bus driver got lost in an area where I could not see anything apart from destroyed building. A couple of days after I arrived to the US, I found out that 3 buses had been completely bombed while trying to take the same route, and people I know, including my doctor from Aleppo, were killed. It turned out that the road had become target for snipers. My violin and I made it safely to the US though. Yes, I found love and support in the US, but it's still painful to realize that your home is not home anymore. That some of your friends died while trying to fight for their lives, and some others are refugees at various different countries. No parents would risk the lives of their own children to death in order to cross the Mediterranean unless the water is safer than their own land. No one would wish to be a refugee in a foreign country, leave everything behind, and start all over from scratch. One of the worst things that could happen to any one of us is to end up a stranger, vulnerable, and number. To be a refugee is to master being resilient, rebellious, courageous, fearless, and always willing to compromise. One of the many great things about refugees is that they're so determined and driven to be successful. They work day and night to not just survive, but thrive to be the change at their new haven. I believe that every human being has potential if given the chance. Always follow your dream and never allow anyone to underestimate you. We are human beings capable of doing many beautiful things if we have the tenacity and energy. My story, for example, is not just about me, it's about every single girl who found herself trapped in a war and fought for her voice to be heard. Never allow the circumstances you have now to challenge you and subsequently knock you out. It's okay to fail at times and learn from our own mistakes. But it's never okay to shut down and welcome despair in our hearts. The most important part in our life is that we keep trying and never take anything for granted. More than 13 million Syrians are displaced now. But we are not that number. Each one of us carries a story, memories, relatives, and parents. Music plays a great role in humanizing numbers. For me, it's a way to sing my home and take you on a journey to see my city and admire its beauty. Surely it's not going to feed a child or put a roof above a refugee's head, but it can inspire people and change makers to do something, to be proactive. We should never underestimate the power of art or think that it serves the purpose of entertainment. It's exactly the opposite. It's the message behind it and how we deliver it. Music has the power to reunite us and remove our differences. I very much hope that the sound of music will one day be much louder than any weapon, and the power of music will help to heal the pain our world has felt and create peace and love platform for everyone. Speaking about love, I thought to bring you the theme from Love Story in this event today. I'm going to perform this famous theme with my husband Riyad Nicholas. This piece is arranged by Lola Astanova. I very much hope you will like it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariela, for inspiring us with your music and your story. And now, I'm happy to welcome to the program Vanessa Forbes, the Global Lead for Print Sustainability at HP. Vanessa has some fantastic news to share that I know you're all waiting to hear about, and that's HP's Girls Save the World program. After this exciting announcement, we'll move into our first fireside chat with two phenomenal people working to tackle global climate change. We'll be joined by Litokne Kabua, an 18-year-old climate activist from the Marshall Islands, and our moderator, Muñeca de Oro, a Solv 2021 Indigenous Communities Fellow and the Just Transition Coordinator at the Micronesia Climate Alliance, for what I'm sure will be an inspiring conversation. But first, let's go to Vanessa and her exciting announcement.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vanessa Forbes, and I'm the global lead for HP's Print Sustainability Communications. I'm delighted to join you all today to share an exciting update on Girls Save the World, which is a program funded by HP and is part of our commitment to climate action, human rights, and digital equity. The program empowers girls and young women with a platform to use their vital voices and become agents of change in their communities as future activists, inventors, legislators, and change makers. We partnered with the Solv Ed Youth Innovation Challenge on two fronts. The first being the HP Girls Save the World Prize that will award $10,000 to a solution led by a team of young women between the ages of 13 and 18 who are addressing a sustainability challenge. And secondly, we're running a virtual camp for the top scoring solutions in the category. We are so excited to share the 10 teams selected to participate in the Girls Save the World camp, where they will be mentored by sustainability experts and our program partners to help them turn their ideas into a reality. In addition, the teams will receive technology packs, including an HP Dragonfly computer, an HP Envy Inspire printer, an instant ink subscription, and HP brand paper, as well as a grant to help make their solutions a reality. We'll announce the winner of our $10,000 prize during the camp in May. And the selected 10 teams for the camp are, drumroll please, Caresa Bazaar, Hybrid Sanitary Napkin for Economic Change, Etana, Bilge Vessel, Effective Climate Action Project, Flood Finder, a dual water toilet flushing system to recycle shower water, Elena, STEM Girl, and Change Making. Congratulations. We can't wait to help girls save the world.
Hafide Tiro Nyokwe. I'm Muñeca de Oro, the founder of the One Canoe Project and a 2021 Indigenous Communities Fellow, joining from the Mariana Islands in Micronesia, and I also work with the Micronesia Climate Change Alliance. Today, we have a chance to spotlight an incredible young climate activist. The Tokne is a part of a group calling on the United Nations to take action against violence directed at climate activists, climate change. Thank you for taking the time to come and talk to us today. So you're a climate activist from the Marshall Islands, and the Marshalls are one of the most vulnerable countries to be experiencing the climate crisis. Can you tell us a little bit about how rising sea levels and coral bleaching are impacting the islands that you call home?
Thank you, Monica, and it's a great pleasure to be part of the talk today. But first of all, I would like to extend my greetings of Yahweh from the Marshall Islands, which is a small country just like the Marianas in the vast Pacific Ocean. It's only 7 feet above sea level. So it's quite dangerous when you have rising seas, and coral bleaching has something that has to do and to impact most of our lives every day. So the Marshallese people for many centuries have depended on the ocean, and somewhat we call in our culture, it's very important, and it's a key place that holds the significance of our culture. It's where we hunt for our food, and it's where we transport our people, and also where we have one of the most beautiful oceans that I've known in my part of my life in the world. it's easy for waves just above 3 feet or 4 feet to have the chance to surge into our homes and our land. And it destroys everything that we have on our community. It destroys our plantations, it destroys our homes. And also in addition to that is coral bleaching. And fishing is an important thing that we have in our culture. It's our local food here in the Marshall Islands. It's also a key factor that keeps Marshallese people to have a local healthy habit. And as we fish and we hunt for other food in the ocean, coral bleaching tends to take that away. It's slowly killing the life of our corals and also killing the life in our ocean, which takes away the beauty of the Marshall Islands.
Wow, that was such a beautiful imagery that you shared about the Marshall Islands and the size and scope of the islands. And I want to applaud you and I greatly admire you for being so young and being so brave to speak in spaces like this and all the way to the United Nations to call attention to the experiences of your families and your whole communities across the islands in the Marshalls. I also wanted to find out a little bit more about what actions you are taking within your community to continuously build resilience and promote the issue of climate change within the Marshall Islands and then also beyond the Marshall Islands.
What I've been doing so far here, I've been doing outreaches to schools here on Ibai, which is the city I live in, an island city. It's also the sub-center. And I also do outreaches to other schools in around the Marshall Islands and other outer islands in the Marshall Islands, and especially the capital on Madrid. So I've been invited to many school meetings and many career fairs and events that occur, and I have a chance to speak of my experience of what I'm doing and why am I taking climate activism to be part of my life.
It's wonderful. You're causing ripples of change, whether you see it or not, within the Marshalls and all around the world with the advocacy that you do. I wanted to find out a little bit more about you and the action that you're taking with Heirs to Our Ocean and the rest of the petitioners in the Children versus the Climate Crisis that was lodged at the United Nations, where you, along with 15 other activists, filed the lawsuit accusing the United Nations of violating children's rights through their inaction on climate change. As of October of 2021, I knew you all received some surprising news that the UN about the UN or from the UN. Can you tell us about that decision and the message it sends to the children around the world and what it means to you and the activism that you're doing moving forward?
Their decision was our petition was inadmissible, or I might say not rightfully true or not rightfully valid to what we are accusing them about. But they're sending a clear message to the world, children like me around the world, that they're taking their time and not trying to answer the calls of our hurtfulness and also our experiences that we are experiencing and these challenges.
Yeah, it's hard coming from our small islands and going to the United spaces like the Conference of Parties or COP, which is the annual meeting that United Nations holds on climate change, and to really sense that there is a lack of urgency that these world leaders have, especially from our islands who are at risk, and especially for youth, because you have a future that, like the recent IPCC report states, seems pretty bleak. At this gathering by MIT, there's a number of young innovators in the audience who are watching. What advice would you give them if they're interested in getting more involved with climate change advocacy?
My only message to you who are here and able to gather here is that we need your help and your assistance as in the climate activism movement. And you can help small islands like mine, and you can help other countries around the world that are, even though they're big and humongous, but they still face the same challenges that we're facing due to the climate crisis.
Oh, I really feel that. I really feel the hope resonating from you and the fire that you have to protect the future and our islands. You know, we come from Micronesia, which are just very small islands. I'm actually from the island of Guahan or Guam, which is one of the largest islands, and it's only 30 miles long in our whole region. And we're surrounded by thousands of miles of ocean, and trying to break the noise and raise our voices to reach across the world to bring attention to our islands is a difficult thing, but you do it so bravely and eloquently. And I'm really inspired just listening to you today. And I always feel that way when I speak with youth. And it's so great to hear from you. And I have one last question, if that's okay for you. On behalf of all the MIT Solv and Solv Ed community, thank you so much for all that you're doing and helping to inspire others to take action, especially youth. Are there any final remarks you'd like to leave with our audience? Any parting wisdoms?
To all those in the audience today and in the MIT, I would like to thank you for this honor to speak. My final remark is my home is only 7 feet above sea level. It can only take 1.5 degrees Celsius. The climate crisis is facing all of us. And here I am in the front line. I face it every day. There you are, wherever you are, you might be facing small changes. But here I am, I face the changes that probably in the upcoming years you might be able to face. It is our responsibilities as human beings, especially as youth, those who call themselves the future. It is your time to speak, or I might say, it is your time to act. The time to speak is over, but the time to act is now. There's a Marshallese saying that it's, if I were to translate it into English, it's an unexpected power that all of us we have if we come together as one. A work here in our culture is told by our elders that a work cannot be only done with one man doing it, especially if it comes to a big gathering of our community. It takes all men of the community to, if it were for a canoe, to sail it into the vast ocean. Thank you and komolta.
Kumultata again, Litokni Sizuis Maasi. I hope and urge the audience learns a little bit more about the Marshall Islands, about Micronesia, and about all that we call sacred in our islands, and really help to protect and promote really bold climate action. We have so much beauty to share with the world. We know what it means to have to live within our means. And, you know, in the islands, we don't contribute to the climate crisis, but we are experiencing the brunt of the impacts of the destabilizing impacts. We, as Litokne said, we are on the front lines, and we desperately need you to urge your leaders to take serious climate action. And we don't have a lot of time. The time is running out. And I really want to send again my thanks to you, Litokne, and everyone in the audience for being here, and urge you again to learn more about the work of Litokne. Where can people follow you and your community organizations, and how can they support you in that work?
You guys can reach out to me in my personal email. It's likna2002@gmail.com.
What a fantastic conversation that was, and really helpful for stressing the importance and urgency around our climate change challenges. Thank you so much, Litokne and Monieka. And again, such exciting news that Vanessa had to share about HP's Girl Save the World program, right? To build on that great news, I have the pleasure to invite one more special guest to the program to share about yet another prize opportunity. Joanna Posen, Co-Executive Director of Restore Health, who will be sharing about the Posen Social Innovation Prize. After Joanna, we'll move to our second fireside chat with Jade Hammeister, a real-life polar explorer, who will be joined by our moderator, Ashni Shah, member of the Solv Ed Youth Committee. Eliza will then be on to help close out our program, and then I'll see you at the end to wrap things up and share a few ideas about how we can keep the great energy alive that we've started here today. So let's kick things off. Please join me in welcoming Joanna Posen.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce today the recipients of the inaugural Posen Social Innovation Prize. My name is Joanna Posen, and I'm an international human rights lawyer and co-executive director of Restore Health, an organization which aims to alleviate the burden of fistula for some of the world's most vulnerable women. I also had the honor of participating as a judge for the Solv Youth Innovation Challenge. Congratulations to all of the applicants, finalists, and selected teams. What an impressive group. This prize is intended to support young innovators and their solutions to challenges across many domains, including health, education, economic mobility, and sustainability. We were particularly interested in solutions that aim to improve the quality of life for women and girls in these realms. It is a real honor and a much needed boost of hope and inspiration to award this prize to these newly named Solv Innovator teams who are using their talents and times to support women and girls in a range of areas. In particular, this prize today is targeting winners who have worked in the humanitarian, health, and sustainability sectors. The prize recipients are Itana, Spring, and Carpolax. Congratulations.
Hello. It's really great to meet you. I'm really glad we can have this conversation. So just to start off, my name is Ashini. I am a senior at Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I'm currently studying mechanical engineering and electrical engineering, and I'm hoping to pursue graduate studies next year in the field of medical devices. Jade, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Jade. I'm from Melbourne. And I guess in 2018, I became the youngest person to ski the polar hat trick.
Super cool. Can you explain to people who don't know what a polar hat trick is?
Yeah, sure. So the polar hat trick consists of skiing to the North Pole, skiing across Greenland, and to the South Pole.
It's so wild. Can you explain a little bit about like the total distance you traveled and what made you want to undertake this feat? Like, who did you wake up one day and just say like, I want to do a polar hat trick, or what were the steps leading up to this?
Yeah, I mean, I was born into quite an adventurous family, so it definitely runs in the family. Like we did Mount Kosciuszko when I was 6 and my brother was 4. We trekked to Everest Base Camp when I was 12 and my brother was 10. Like we've always sort of done travel and trips growing up. I guess on the trek to Everest Base Camp when I was 12, we were trekking with an expedition aiming to reach the summit. So there were a lot of really cool adventurers and inspiring people. And I spent a bit of time with an Icelandic lady, Villa. She'd skied to the South Pole solo. And I think hearing her stories, and I became quite close with her, sort of inspired me to start thinking about my own journey.
Wow. Are you still talking to her? Did you let her know when you completed your first expedition?
Yeah, definitely. No, we've kept in touch over the years, and hopefully we can share sort of our own adventure in the future.
That's so cool. So I guess it's like taking a step back, like Solv is about like tackling global problems and talking about the issues that are facing us today. And since you have such a close up and personal experience with some of the world's most fragile environments, can you talk a little bit about your experience? Have you seen the effects of global warming? And like, what have been your big takeaways? Like, what is your personal account?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like going into these expeditions, I didn't like climate change wasn't really in the back of my mind. And then like as a 14-year-old in the Arctic, like you see it firsthand and then like my eyes were open to it. For example, North Pole, the floating sea ice base, which we needed to land a plane to actually start our expedition, kept breaking up because the sea ice kept melting. So we couldn't actually land a plane. And that was unprecedented. It hadn't happened before. And they were thinking about canceling the season. So that was very eye-opening. Greenland, we had incredibly warm conditions on the top of the ice cap. Instead of snow, we got rain at one point, which was just ridiculous in the middle of Greenland. And South Pole, we had very extreme conditions as well. So like all three expeditions opened my eyes so much to the effects of climate change. And I mean, I feel like a sense of sort of responsibility as probably the only person of my generation to have had that firsthand experience to sort of play my part in protecting those environments for future generations.
Yeah, you've mentioned before that you've talked about by expanding your dreams, it's impossible to think about shrinking. So I guess in that sort of context, and as a spokesperson for this generation, how would you advise innovators and young people around the world to expand their dreams and like think about this problem that's much greater than any one person?
Yeah, I think nowadays that in the internet and on social media, there's so many messages telling people, and I think young people particularly, to be less and to not dream big and to not follow your dreams. And I think easier said than done, but if we can sort of avoid listening to that thinking and dream big and stay true to yourself, then I think we can achieve great things. And I guess as well, like take risks without fear of failure or rejection, and sort of trust that the universe will show you the path that's yours.
It's really beautiful. Thank you. What were some of these key moments for you? Like your greatest moments of self-discovery, these like moments where you really felt like your path was illuminated?
I mean, I spent like on these expeditions so much time alone, like not even hundreds of kilometers away from people or civilization, but even within the team, like you would ski in single file every day, and then rest breaks, you'd get a bit of food in and you wouldn't talk because it would be too cold and you'd keep moving. So most of the time you were on your own and alone with your thoughts, and you learn a lot about, I guess, how you deal with pain and suffering and being alone. And like, I guess going into the trips as well, like I knew I was prepared, but I didn't sort of know that I could go as far as I did, and I could achieve these things. Like you don't sort of realize until you do it. I spent a lot of time with the ex-Special Forces soldier who was the camera assistant on the Greenland and South Pole expeditions, and hearing sort of his mind tricks and the way that he has learnt to deal with pain and suffering being in the Special Forces was unmatched. And like little tricks like tricking your mind by smiling when you're really suffering, or pushing for another 15 seconds, like little things that really helped get me through and taught me a lot about how I can do a lot more than I thought that I could do.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, like we're always told like if you smile more, you're like, or you push yourself like a little bit more, you'll definitely achieve a little bit more than you can. But the situation is so different, being in an environment where you don't have a choice. There is no way out. So that's pretty incredible to hear. You've met a lot of these very interesting people. Villa, this ex-Special Forces person. What other people have you met? Like, if you had to put together like the roster of the people who have helped you the most or who have inspired you the most, who would be on that roster?
Yeah, I think for sure Villa. She was sort of the iconic female role model that inspired me to start this whole thing. There was another lady on the same trip to Everest Base Camp, Lydia, who was the first woman to summit Everest without oxygen. And similarly, I spent a lot of time with her, like doing our own thing and hearing her stories, and that had the same sort of effect on me. But yeah, Heath definitely helped me through. Our guide Eric, who was on all three expeditions, my dad, who came on all three expeditions as well, and obviously like wouldn't have been able to do it without him and his support. Back home, my mom, my brother, and I have a really tight group of friends as well, which is really nice.
That's super cool. I love how it's also like a family thing too. Like your family was so supportive in many ways throughout your journey. And you're so young too. So like what comes next for you after this? And then also like what advice would you have for someone who's considering their life passion or wants to pursue a project that's massive or of the scale?
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of these expeditions, I was going into my final year of school, year 12. So study has been the focus for me since then. I'm now going into my third year of uni. I'm studying a Bachelor of Commerce and Global Studies. So I'm very passionate about business, but also about the world and sort of finding ways to have a positive impact through business. I think my advice for young people, and like I've said this or shared this message a fair bit, I think, is to be brave, not perfect, and to choose bravery over perfection. I think I can speak to my own experiences in that I didn't know how to ski going into these expeditions. I spent 7 days in New Zealand before the first expedition learning how to ski. And obviously there was like a lot of self-doubt. I doubted myself a lot when I saw like the professional skiers that were hanging around the ski lodge when I was 14 and taking on this big feat. But I just had to be brave and I had to stay true to myself, and I guess not chase perfection because I wasn't a perfect skier and I'm still not, but I was brave and I took on these expeditions and yeah, made it happen.
I really like that message. Like be brave. Yeah, and like trust in yourself that if you want to do something, you can. Yeah, it's a really good message to think about. And I guess I also want to ask you like specifically, I'm very inspired by females who are the first to do something or traverse land that is typically not open or like encouraged of females to do. So I was very inspired by your story when I first heard it, and how you handled criticism. So I was wondering if there's anything you want to say about that, about how you learned to handle criticism, because even though you've accomplished so much, there are still people who feel like they have something to say to you. So I was wondering if you could say anything about that.
Yeah, definitely. I think like as a young woman going into these expeditions, like it's a very male dominated industry. And even like on the plane out to the first expedition, it was all men and they were all doing the same expedition as me, and I was 14 in my pink polo suit and it just felt ridiculous, but like I did it. And I think again, you really have to stay true to yourself, and I had to tell myself that I was there because this is something that I wanted to do and I'd worked so hard to get to that point. That yeah, I just had to trust myself and the preparation that I'd done, and yeah.
Really cool. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your words, and for being so outspoken about your experiences, and your vision for young innovators across the world. We all really appreciate it, and we can all learn something from you. So thank you so much for your time today. It was really enjoyable to talk to you.
Thanks so much for having me. Nice to meet you.
Thanks so much for joining us, Jade and Ashani. Well, we're almost done with our program for today. Hard to believe, I know. But before I hand it back to Gabby to prepare us for networking, I wanted to share a few more announcements. So you heard from our partners at HP Girls Save the World and the Posen Social Innovation Prize about those awards, but you may be doing some quick calculations and wondering about the rest of the prize funding pool. Well, I'm delighted to share that in addition to those awards announced today, each of the 10 selected Solv Ed Innovator teams will receive $5,000 in funding. We'll work closely with those teams over the coming months to better understand how this community can support them through mentorship and connections. The remaining $60,000 from the prize pool will then be dispersed to the teams as follow-on funding, depending on their needs and the milestones that they reach over the next 6 months. For those of you who applied this year but weren't selected, we hope that you continue to engage with Solv Ed. This is certainly not the end of your journey, and we're really looking forward to continuing to hear from you as the Solv Ed community grows. Thank you so much. From me, from Gabby, from Alex, on behalf of the MIT Solv team and our Solv Ed community, thank you truly for bringing your energy and your creative spirit to this event. And we'll see you soon. Back to you, Gabby.
What an awesome way to bring our first ever Solv Ed Solutions event to a close. Thanks very much to Joanna and the Posen Social Innovation Prize for their commitment to supporting young entrepreneurs taking on global challenges. Thank you to Jade and Ashni for their amazing conversation and advocacy work. And thank you to you all for making this such a dynamic, exciting, and action-oriented community. Congratulations again to our 10 impressive innovators who have already started making their own impact in the world, and happy that Solv Ed can be part of their journey. Now, go on out there, make some friends, and keep pushing forward. And we'll look forward to seeing you again next year and hearing about all the great ways you've stepped up to the challenge to make the world a better, healthier, fairer, and safer place for all. Thanks again, everyone, and see you all very soon.